Welcome to SHAPE 2024. This is a showcase of industrial technology major projects. And today I'm probably going to reinforce a lot of what your teachers are telling you, but sometimes it's good to hear it from another person, a bit of an objective view. So congratulations on choosing industrial technology. It's such a rewarding process. I've seen it year after year, students developing a major project, and hopefully by the time you've completed your project, you'll learn a lot of new skills and you can be proud of what you present at the end of this big year. Okay, so the seminar, it's split into two. We're just going to look at the requirements for the major project. We've got 4 students that we're going to look into their major project specifically. And we've got multimedia and timber, which seems like we're covering everybody here. Okay, so I'm sure you already know this, right? It's split into 2. So we have the production, which is why a lot of students choose industrial technology. It's that hands-on, the practical, get in there, constructing things with, really hands-on learning. And then we've got the steps and all the processes, which is called the DMC Folio, Design, Management and Communication. Okay, and they're equally as important as each other, but they are weighted slightly differently. In terms of certifying for Year 12s, when you get to the end, approaching that due date, you and your teacher are going to certify that it's all your own work, and your teachers are going to certify that they have seen that work being produced in the classrooms. And then in terms of outside assistance, outsourcing is actually allowed. It's just about how you document that and acknowledge that outsourcing. Now, NESA's website has got lots of information to support you. Really recommend that you have a look and see what things you can look at to help you understand what you're doing. So, for example, the syllabus is a really important document that's guiding your course. You've also got assessment and reporting. Then you've got each year, the HSC markers actually put together some advice based on what they saw in the centre, and that can assist you, as well as all of the exam papers and a whole history of them with marking guidelines. Okay, so as I said earlier, we have the DMC Folio and the production. Now, the production is on the right-hand side here. It's split into what you call performance descriptors, which indicate a level of achievement, and the DMC is on the left-hand side. It's really recommended that in the DMC, you try to sort of keep the order as you see it here. And there are some instances where it might incorporate some other sections, or you might blend the sections, and that's okay. My recommendation is to follow the order as you see it in that guideline. As I said, this is where you can find some more information about marking feedback. Who's seen these keywords here? They're actually used in examination or written exams, and they're NESA's glossary or keywords, and they're not just important for the written exam, they actually guide the production as well. So understanding the difference between them and the level of sophistication at the top, for example, critically analyse, evaluate, as opposed to describe, you've got higher sophistication in that critical analysis. In terms of starting a major project, with my Year 11s, we obviously have a year of preparation, and we do 3 projects, and hopefully what those projects are showing is where that student has got strengths, okay? And I want them to work with those strengths. Similarly, if you're thinking about multimedia especially, what are you passionate about saying? Because you've got sort of a bit of a conceptual basis as well. But yeah, what are your interests and what are your passions? What skills have you developed? Because you don't want to go on a big learning curve in Year 12. So timber and furnishings, I really think it's a great idea to think about a specific space for your design. in terms of the technical skills, make sure that what you choose has the capacity for difficult joinery and assemblage. And obviously there's always that balance between the function, so the purpose or the use, and then the aesthetics or the style. So that's a good starting point for multi. I always say to my students, right, are you educating? Are you entertaining? Are you evoking emotion? Are you marketing or advertising? Who's your audience for this? And then you've got the elements of multimedia as well. So text, graphics, video, animation, audio, web interactivity. And then you've got 2D or 3D. So there's a lot to think about, but they're just recommendations for a starting point. Okay, so we have chosen 4 projects to look at today, and luckily they're actually 2 multimedia and 2 timber furnishing. We don't have time to view the full folio from each student, so we've just chosen sections, and I think it's good too because you can sort of see how sections look differently between each focus area, but they use the same process, right? Okay, our first student is Ben Taylor, who created this beautiful Japanese table. We're going to actually analyse one of the production criteria for each student. These 2 criteria down the bottom, the links and the problem solving, these can be assessed through both the production and what is put into the portfolio, the DMC. Okay, so we're assessing them in two ways. So the writing and then the actual physical product. We're going to look at the range of skills from Ben, and I can see you guys have got skills, right? You've got some foundational skills. From this image, can anyone suggest some specific skills that Ben has used to construct his Japanese table? Yeah.
Precision.
Yeah, absolutely. This thing did not have a millimetre out of place. Absolutely. So accuracy in the marking of the angles, the measuring, and the assemblage. Not a millimetre out of place. Yeah. What else? Yes, beautiful marquetry. And it is beautiful marquetry. Lots of testing involved as well, and looking at and experimenting with the designs of that. Does anyone want to suggest one more skill? Yeah.
Joinery.
Yeah, amazing. We've got dovetail joints, mortise and tenon, lapped and through dovetails as well, and spline miter joints. There's 2 fitted floating drawers. There's pinning, there's routing, there's using jigs, sanding and finishing to perfection, and laser cutting and CAD drawing. So all of that collectively is a huge range of skills. So here's Ben's starting point, which was the statement of intent. And the key word in the top mark range of the statement of intent or the marking guideline is explaining clearly what and why. And the word explain is defined in those key terms that you use even in the exams, which means to relate cause and effect and make the relationships between things evident and provide why and how, or how. So you're looking to clarify the purpose and the function, like Ben, and hopefully your teachers might give you a scaffold to work with. So it can include the chosen form or design and its capabilities, the 5 W's. Just go back to the what is to be achieved, where does it go, why are you making it, what skills do you want to showcase, who will use it, and how might you go about the project, how may it differ to other projects. Okay, what are the possibilities? What will you require to know to complete the project? What are the parameters or limitations? And a lot of students say, I've got 9 months to do this. But try and think a bit more specifically to differentiate yourself. What are the goals you expect to complete, to achieve on completion? And if you look at Ben's lounge room here, So for timber, if you're designing for a specific space, it can be really good to analyse the space that the product's going into. So he's added arrows and indicated the size and the orientation. Now, statement of intent, a few tips. Try and break up the text. It's a whole page. Probably shouldn't be any more than a page and a half. Use bold to highlight the skills. Really brainstorm. What is the comprehensive list of skills within that project? Be careful to edit the statement of intent so it's not waffling on, okay? And because remember, the key word is clearly articulate, okay? So there's a level of being concise. A common error is students detailing the exact thing, the exact outcome, or the exact scenes or story line or software, okay? That's not the idea. The idea of the statement of intent is to set up a problem and then to solve it through the industrial technology process. The development of ideas section. This is where things start to get quite exciting, I must say. When I get to this part with my students, I sort of breathe a bit of a sigh of relief. Oh, we got past the research. Okay, everyone's alive. We're all okay. Things are going to start to pick up and get a bit more exciting. The top mark range for this dot point indicates very high level skills, meaning of excellence. Okay, it's about authentic development. So not just going through something and ticking boxes for the sake of ticking boxes, but allowing the product to evolve through experimentation like Ben. He has idea generation of the fish marquetry design, which that student beautifully pointed out. So he's assessing the possibilities, presenting the alternatives. And then he does rough sketches, lots of annotations with the positives and the negatives. He does testing and prototyping, so he does the dry fit, dovetails, testing those, bow ties, testing those. They're all evaluated as well. Then he models. He's into modelling now. 3D, CAD modelling in Fusion, okay, got isometric drawings. And then finally, he calls these sketches, they're actually working drawings. They're working drawings because they've got accurate measurements. He's got a plan view with all the components. And then lastly, working drawings. This is CAD with orthographic drawings. Okay, so we'll look at multimedia a bit later to see how this can look differently in a different focus area. Who's seen one of these? Yeah, it's the Gantt chart. So Excel, what he's done here is he's prepared and outlined critical dates for the completion of various stages. And he's really explicitly broken down the production into sub-builds and stages that relate to the successful management. So he records one column and then another, which is called actual. So planned and actual views. And then in order to get into the top mark descriptor, you have to evaluate. You have to do ongoing evaluation. Okay, that further confirms that high order thinking. In the same section of the DMC, you've got the finance plan. And the finance plan is the cost of the project. So everything from printing to software, rental equipment, got on the bus to go film, timber, materials, computer, everything. Really think about expanding that finance plan to factor in everything. So it can be split into headings like timber and other, like Ben's on screen. But here Ben identifies what money is available, so his budget. Okay, he estimates costs, so the personal costs, and he demonstrates a genuine effort to develop a budget based on finances. And the thing is that schools have got a lot of equipment that you use and you're actually none the wiser that it has cost the department or it's cost your school to have that equipment. So it can legitimately reflect no money, $0, cost nothing to you. But what you can do is just cost that Adobe subscription up from the supplier Adobe. Okay, include it there, didn't actually cost you personally, but have it in one column. Okay, and just note that again, to obtain the performance descriptor in the highest range, you need to evaluate the finance plan. Ben achieved at the top mark descriptor for ongoing evaluation, and it refers to critical evaluation, meaning that there is a degree or level of accuracy and depth of knowledge and understanding, questioning, reflection and quality to determine the value of or make a judgment based on a criteria. So let's look at Ben's approach and try and flesh that out a little bit. He uses a key symbol on the left-hand side. He's put that in his contents page. He then evaluated and used those symbols throughout the whole DMC. You can do it at the end of each section. It's a personal choice, or you can do it like this. In terms of a written reflection of your statement of intent, I think this should go at the end, can go at the end, and make sure you're quoting your statement of intent, that first sort of couple of pages that the markers see. Consider both the positives and the negatives of the outcomes that you've experienced. And many students fall into sort of a trap of just providing a short paragraph, okay? But you need to try and expand on your writing, expand where you can. Multimedia. So we have chosen Areesh Kane, who presents an incredible 2D, 3D film. We are going to look at the degree of difficulty with this special effects and 3D modelling and 3D animation. For Areesh, he had 5 minutes duration with sustained editing and variation throughout that 5 minutes. Okay, really captivating. Didn't want to look away. He used industry standard software packages, which were really well handled. Used all the tools, not just like the default kind of simple presets, applied the default presets, but really got into that package. He used 3D modelling and the use of like nodes, lighting, and rendering in various software like Blender, which is quite difficult to manage. And he successfully showcased 2D visual effects and compositing techniques. So he reached a degree of difficulty which was extremely high. So in terms of research, the research and the selection justification section is quite commonly joined together by students, meaning that you select or reject parts of your chosen research and then secondly kind of justify why. So it's seen here in Areesh Kane's discussion and implementation. So he has collated and gathered professional or inspirational work like Blade Runner, and he's got really good analysis of it. It's kind of the initial part, I think. I always get my students to start this first, actually. But in Timber, it might be analysing existing designs. Strengths and weaknesses is used a lot. It's a good table to use, right? Or positives and negatives. So he's conducted that with his software choices. And then he determines what camera techniques are vital to his success, and he presents this with examples. He actually presents them with examples from his film, which I think is really clever. It shows that application, it shows those links between his planning and production. In the sketching and idea generation, now that's sitting under an umbrella of development of ideas. So here he has done some brainstorming. This one's a mood board, okay? But he doesn't just do the mood board, he annotates it with his thinking. With his sketches, they're very preliminary sketches, unlike working drawings. Okay, so they're quite freehand, there's no measurements. But again, you can see that ongoing evaluation there. So mind mapping comes under this section as well. And you're sort of wanting to really demonstrate the clear and logical sequencing of ideas happening. And that's why we go into the next section. If you are doing hand-drawn sketches like this, I really recommend using like a fine tip pen, and instead of pencil, well, start with pencil. Fine tip pen, scan it in for that clarity. So the next sort of stage is that production working drawings, and there's some incredible storyboards here. They're considered working drawings if someone else could take those drawings and sort of work with it and make the product. They can be freehand, but then you just need that tiny little bit more accuracy than your prelim sketches. We've got a script here as well, which then is coupled with the storyboard. And then lastly, some location scouting and the shot list. They are considered working drawings in the multimedia focus area. And there's some excellent attributes there that he's got with that table. In terms of OHS or WHS, doesn't matter which you call it, we've got quite an elaborate setup here. If we look on the left-hand side, we've got the 2 screen monitors, and he's really lucky to have that. But I must say that it's not necessary to achieve well in this section to have a setup like this. In terms of like application of WHS, it's not just about the theory of WHS. Areesh does a little tiny introduction to it, overview and significance, I think he calls it. He then goes on to show how industry practices of WHS apply to his project, using examples, things like the risk matrix, the safety matrix, and then the risk management of that, looking at all the things that applies to him. We've got the home or the school ergonomic setup, do both. Okay, they both apply. Signage, safety guidelines in your classroom. In terms of timber and furnishings, you guys have got a lot to work with, right? You've got PPE, you've got your on guard, you've got signage and machinery regulations. And you can put this in the record of production section. You don't just have to have it sitting in its separate section. Kane McCarran, beautiful, tall, he calls it the tall display cabinet. So we're going to have a little look at the quality of his product. The joinery is of very high quality, right? So we're going to look at a little bit of his relevant research, which was in the early phases. A great tip I have for you is to make sure you include research that is unique to you, to your project. You'll no doubtedly have research that's shared with your peers, like looking at the various timber or the various joints that you can include. But what we have here included is a PMI chart developed by Kane specifically for display cabinets. At the same time, he's starting to make some decisions, and he's also gauging, well, what is the range of skills if I was to choose that one, over this one? And this is within existing designs, so what you see on screen. Now, sometimes these alternatives can best sit in the idea generation section, or which is under that umbrella of development of ideas. But there's no right or wrong in the choices that you make about some sections. It's about maybe balancing if you want to shift it over, balancing the sections. In terms of authentic research, right, you want to ask yourself, is the research contributing to the decisions made? Is it informing the product? Is it authentically helping you to progress? So we have the selection and justification. The purpose of this section is to justify the selection of all the research conducted. So you might reject choices. You will ultimately reject choices. And let's say you research that range of timber. You can explain why it wasn't suitable. Now, the justification in Kane's case is based on things like availability of the timber, the technical capacity of that material, the quality of the finish, potential finish, the degree of difficulty, and also the costs. So you can use some symbols like a cross or a tick or red, green, colour coding to communicate the choices, or you can have a separate section like Kane. Evidence of project management, we have the record of production. And this is in terms of volume, this is a large part of the DMC. And what is it? Well, it comes in the form of visuals and explanations. Here we can see that Kane's taken progressive photographs, or if you're in multimedia, screenshots of each step or skill to reflect the construction processes. And I liken this for my students to the analogy of a recipe. So what is the method for making your project? Could somebody, if you handed that method over, could they loosely follow and make the same thing? Some tips for presenting this that you may wish to take on board. If you break up the text by highlighting the tools in bold, that can be really good, along with demonstrating safety pictures in this record. You can highlight the degree of difficulty or the problem-solving evidence. And then you have the option of producing a 6-minute video. Now, that 6-minute video can be a huge advantage to convey information if you plan it well, if you record it well, and if you edit it well. So ICT and presentation skills. This is more of a impression mark. You don't need to address this in your DMC. For Kane, let's use his as an example, as a great example, right? He has utilised the space really well. He's used a lot of formatting options, so the elements are consistent and they're easy to read. He's used headers and footers and page numbers. Obviously, he's got this like kind of orange colour. He's got the symbols and the tables that we saw in some of the research. He's got bullet points to break up the text. And as a marker, it's really inviting to read. Doesn't turn me away. It's well presented. And in addition, he's used ICT such as Excel and also CAD. Now, cleverly, he keeps his pages dynamic. So he manages to keep the formatting and elements consistent, but sort of changes the look of each page, which helps to sort of keep you interested. Okay, our last student that we're looking at today is Eden Fernando. She produced a website and a promotional package, and we're going to analyse her links between planning and production. So I've talked about authentic processes quite a bit. For her, the website and the promotional material had a lot of authentic processes throughout the folio. There's a clear relationship between the development and the product. And when there's not, there's a change, there's a modification symbol, and it's explained. So she adapts and she changes, and then she modifies with an explanation. You can see skillfully the progression through the processes, and she really verifies the work is hers through the record of production. In terms of prototyping, modelling and testing, a website is a great example of this because there's so much testing in terms of the coding, but it's a good example where in the differing focus areas, the content can look quite different. So prototyping, it's not necessarily just related to metals, or modelling just related to graphics, for example. It's about determining like what of those things is appropriate for your project. So here we have the tutorials, which are accompanied with the critical analysis, and on screen we've got a lot of screenshots of her coding. She's also doing some testing of colour grading up there, and also camera framing for her photography. This section's about like finding the best options. And so I use a SWOT analysis initially with my students to see what strengths and weaknesses, modifications and things to fix and improve. We also do some surveys and then apply that feedback. It is a really good point in the process to get some qualitative or quantitative feedback. Because after all, like, design is rarely made for just yourself. It's normally got an audience, right? Or someone to purchase it. So this section can sit separately, or it can be seen throughout your DMC folio. If it is applied throughout, use that symbol to highlight the modifications. And it is essential that you analyse and evaluate to reach that top mark range. So Eden provides modifications that were required in her layout as well as her photography. And they're also cleverly related to problems, evidence of problem solving. So we get to see Eden's record of production. And here she uses a really effective approach. We can see that she's taken those progressive screenshots of each step to reflect the website building and the promotional material, and then she evaluates these. If we look at her wireframing on the left, the layouts in those development ideas section, we can see the correlation between following this planning. And then she uses a 6-minute record of production, media, to accompany her record of production. So it's greatly assisting in the production criteria, links between planning and production, as well as hitting that top descriptor for record of production. Now, a website is a great example of problem solving. As you know, coding programming is a difficult skill. The evidence can be judged in the portfolio as well. So in coding a website, to make it functional, she doesn't just allow her website to speak for itself alone. She provides that critical evaluation, and she shows that that product is an evolving design, improved through the problems encountered. Design rarely goes smoothly, like D&T, design and technology. Okay, there's lots of bumps in the road, there's lots of mistakes, and there's lots of issues that are worthy of, that they're worthy processes.